Hi, everybody. It's the show with Ron. I'm here. I got my new BOC shirt on. It's a wonderful thing. So much music we have online. You can discover stuff you never heard before. BOC music, so wonderful. Been listening to the greatest hits like Astronomy. How neat. How great that music is, and how what a contrast it is to much of what we have today. Nothing today really shreds much. You don't really hear people getting down on guitar like they used to. But anyway, let's get right to the news today. I was going over the news, and the Drudge report updated just when I was doing it, looking at it. So I was wiping out the stuff I wanted to talk about. Here we have now. What's coming up now is next Thursday. We have the first presidential debate, which will certainly be a big ratings blockbuster. People will be interested in seeing what kind of crazy, almost reality television stuff that these debates are becoming because of Trump mainly. But here we have Donald Trump suffering abysmal polling week, hit with a series of negative polls. We have the Drudge report was saying, yes, even Fox News that trends heavily on the side of Republicans and is very skeptical of Democrats and Biden. Even they're showing that it's shifting to Biden now, and I'm not sure that it's easy to interpret these things in the lead up to the U.S. elections. The old conventional wisdom was that despite Americans thinking that the parties are very far apart or different and have very completely different ideals, most people from other countries, countries that have parliamentary democracies that allow for smaller parties to participate in government as opposed to just two, they would look at the United States and say there's not really much difference between the two parties. They're both very much ensconced in pro-business ideals and interventionism around the world. So when Americans are shifting back and forth on the polls like this in the lead up to the election, and it will continue to shift going forward. We may think it's bizarre that anybody could shift between Biden and Trump, but that's how the electorate is. And I would say that what's this poll may be indicating what I've talked about quite a lot, and sure, other people have too. This is capturing the middle. So you'd say, well, everything's polarized. We hear that in the news a lot. It's everything's polarized to one side or the other, and there's hardcore Trump supporters, and it's never been this polarized. It's got to be that way. But really, there is a middle ground of voters in the United States, a reasonable middle. And most people are conservative some things and liberal on other things, as I think comedian Chris Rock once famously said. So instead of being so ideological, I would say a lot of this middle ground of Americans. This is what the Clintons came to power under in the 1990s. The soccer moms, the kind of affluent white Americans from the suburbs that would have been thought to be part of the Republican Revolution in the 80s, but yet they had many values that the Democrats could could latch onto or be a part of, such as Bill Clinton was very conservative as Democrats go and compared to previous Democratic candidates. And I've talked many times about liberty here. So this center group that may shift between Trump and Biden, they, like probably many Americans, they might be for some gun control, but they also want the right to keep and own guns. By the same token, they may in general say abortion on demand. It's too bad we have to have it, but they want the ability to choose themselves without government interference if and when they want to have abortions. So this is this is a middle ground that politicians can stake their claim on. And, certainly if any party goes too far in one direction or another, they're going to lose that middle ground. The Democrats go too far in banning guns entirely, that's going to hurt them. If the Republicans go too far in banning abortion entirely, that's obviously hurt them. So we're going to see a lot of shifting, but I still think the key is going to be in that reasonable middle ground. And this is where we can see Trump be hurt if he continues or he displays craziness in his speech or too radical or just a person who is too wild, too many unforced errors. A lot of these cases where he had the records and his residence down in Florida. Now maybe that's all fine and dandy, but see, Trump and his people know they're out to get him, so he's got to be extra careful not to leave any stone unturned in making sure there's nothing there that they can come after him for. And so a lot of his legal cases are stuff where it was just kind of sloppy or an unforced error that he created himself. And on the other side, we have, Biden has shifted a lot of his positions very, very much. For instance, on tariffs and on immigration, almost mirroring the Republican positions, despite the Republican spin on that, saying it's really no different. But this is a big shift, and it shows how a politician has to cater to the public opinion, even if it's opposite their existing policies. So both of the candidates have to be shifting and moving to the center to get this center group. And I also wanted to say, in the debates coming up, very often when the press famously during the 1980 presidential elections, they portrayed Ronald Reagan as a nut. They said, this guy's a nut. He's going to start nuclear war. We can't confront the Soviet Union or these autocratic empires. We got to have peace on any terms, by any means necessary. So when it came time to the debates, that's where Reagan's popularity really surged, because he didn't seem too extreme. He seemed quite reasonable in the way he presented himself. And that may be something that Trump needs to lean into in the debates next week, because certainly there's a public opinion that's pushed, and it's going to continue to push by most of the media, that he's a nut, unleashed, unhinged sort of a person. But, he can make big strides if he shows he has reasonable, common sense sort of policies that, because a lot of these policies, once they get in the media, they're only expressed in one way. Especially, let's say these comedy shows where this kind of pseudo news shows and certainly things are spun in one way or another. But this is a chance for both sides to grab the middle. So what else do we have? Firestorm erupts over requiring women to sign up for military draft. For me, I like equal rights, but do anybody want women to do we have to carry the idea or the fiction that there is no difference between genders all the way to something like this? I think a lot of right-wing people want to hold women to the fire and say, if I'm going to be drafted, you are too. But do we really want that? I don't know. Certainly, if women want to go in and be in the military and fight, I think they should absolutely do. If they want to take that chance, I'm not going to do it. I would probably run away. I wouldn't. I would have gone in. But luckily, I was in the small period of history where I didn't have to be drafted. And here, we've let the world get out of control again. The international order has broken down, and we're going to have to draft again. But I don't know. I don't try to editorialize too much, but I don't see any reason why we have to force women or pretend that women are equal to men in terms of the draft. What else do we have? AI generated movies. I'm not sure why. I hate AI. I'm not sure why we're letting these a few big giant tech companies dominate politics and prevent proper regulation of this sort of stuff and steal copyright. Uh, I don't know. Uh, so I've been back in the United States for the first time in about 5 years. And when I left here, they had like 99 cents value meals, like a 99-cent hamburger, all this sort of stuff. Everything was very cheap. Well, in the same way the international order has broken down in the past years, so has the economy. And any kind of value meal you get's going to be more than $10 just for hamburger, fries, and a drink. Uh, so it is fascinating. And I was going to post some pictures of, when you go to the store, you just a bag of chips. It says value family, but it's not even a very big bag of chips. It's like $7.50. So there's quite some extraordinary costs here. And it's funny to see that because I know I've covered on this channel where we've looked at how the media, especially like around the end of last year, November, December, January, a lot of the big media kind of leaned in on the idea that inflation wasn't so bad. Things were better than ever before. They even coined a new phrase called vibe economy, which oddly enough, a lot of these media outlets all came out together with to push this on people, not in articles that were labeled as commentary or opinion or analysis, but just a news article to explain to people if you think the prices are too high, you're wrong. Uh, Media has really in the United States has really let down its job in having a disinterested or impartial take on things. So here's McDonald's got to fight back with a $5 value meal because I'm sure these fast food places are hurting. And if you're not in the United States, um, everybody eats fast food. That's why we're so fat. It always just makes me think of one of the best Family Guy jokes where he's saying, our economy's not doing too well right now. That's why we're all so fat. So, I don't know about this. I just wanted to look at that. Republican arrested chasing an adult dancer in a road while waving a gun at 2:45 a.m. and his campaign releases bizarre statement. This is to me. Let me move that out. To me, this is kind of like living the dream, isn't it? This is like a typical American dream. I'm a rich Republican chasing an adult dancer down the road waving a gun. I know it's not funny, but you know what? It is funny. So next, one of my favorites, Donald Sutherland. I'm not sure. See, this sort of undervalues how good he was. It almost seems like Hollywood Reporter can't grab onto his appeal. To me, he's sort of like a James Stewart for the 1970s auteur era of very serious films. You got to watch him. Some of the best film, one of my favorite films. I think this is a great film, directed by Robert Redford, of all people. Ordinary People, Mary Tyler Moore, another all-time great performance of her in that film. If you've never seen it, stop. I don't know why people subscribe to dumb stuff like Netflix or whatever. If you haven't seen, there are things that are 100 times better than you'll ever see on these crummy, overproduced, expensive shows. Ordinary People is a film you should see. Also, Day of the Locust is another great one. It's from a great book. Maybe I'll have to cover that in some of my literature coverage by Nathaniel West. I don't know why anybody would read any current book that comes out now. By the way, I'm going to advertise my current book later. But if you haven't read a book like Day of the Locust by Nathaniel West or Miss Lonely Hearts, also by him, then he was killed in a car accident. So great stuff to read. Wonderful, marvelous. So Donald Sutherland, He was a James Stewart for the 1970s auteur era, MASH, so many things. Just to say just a few things, like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten he was in Ordinary People and Hunger Games because you remember him for so many other things. Clute, I don't hear Clute talked about much. Fantastic movie with Jane Fonda. I believe she won Best Actress for that. Gotta watch that. Invasion, the Body Snatchers. Nimoy is in that, and Jeff Goldblum as well. What a powerhouse actors in that film. So goodbye, Donald Sutherland, one of the greats. I don't know why. I liked any time we discover a new animal or a new dinosaur. Here's a dinosaur from Montana, had horns like Norse god Loki's blades. Anything to get the clickbait in these days with this kind of headline. Like, I know Loki. I know Norse mythology. I've watched Disney movies before. So here's a cool dinosaur. And yeah, that's a lot of interesting news coming up. And I'll have a lot more to say about the election and that kind of stuff as it's coming to the fore. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the debates. I was thinking of maybe, streaming over that and doing a reaction. But kind of the point of my channel is I want to separate the excitement of the moment and the reactions that get us all agitated. I want to separate us from that with this context and commentary. So maybe streaming at the same time and reacting is not the right thing, but I don't know. It should be fun. Certainly, if Trump hasn't done anything, it's he's made these debates like reality television, and for some reason, here I'm back. I had to show this. This is had some since music BOC was on my mind. I came back. Some of my uncles, my fathers are both passed now. Their records, and I grew up listening to all of these records, and I'll tell you, we really like Lawrence Welk. These are people we grew up in the age of the Doors, the Stones, the Beatles, and Hendrix, etc., etc. But all the records we had in our family, and these are my uncle's records. These are just some of the Lawrence Welk. They must have bought everything that Lawrence Welk came out with, but Lawrence Welk was emblematic of the time, and he, all this kind of old style big band music. They did tried to embrace popular music at the time with their interpretations of it, and in the United States, I believe on PBS they still show some of the Lawrence Welk. And my parents liked to watch it when they were alive, and boy, is it hard to get through. And I'm pretty up for about anything. I appreciate all kinds of stuff. But I just wanted to show you some of these really weird religious records. The King's Trio presents A Man Called Jesus. These horrifying hairstyles of the past. How Great Is Our God, another one. No secular music here. Let's see. Here's another. Here's a Lawrence Welk Christmas one. It's hard to listen to. Here's another Lawrence Welk. 1963's early hits. All I have to do is dream. This is sort of a mainstream rock songs, not too edgy. Oh, this is one of my favorites, and I'm going to convert this. There's very little defined of Liberace online. They did, when I was a kid, I saw Liberace twice. He's made me the man I am today. The thing about Liberace is modern times has reduced people to the characteristics of their race, their what they do with their genitals, this sort of thing. So it's hard to have any. This was one of the great entertainers who loomed large over pop culture in the 20th century, like along with people like Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Al Jolson in the past, but we won't talk about him. And someone like Michael Jackson. These were people who were evergreen for all seasons and were giants of every decade they were alive in. And you can, and you know, his Liberace's music is campy and kind of crazy. And it's true that the main criticism, it's right in Wikipedia, but this is, it says, some critics said he makes the easy parts of the song complex and the complex parts easy. This was in Liberace's arrangements, and it does sound like someone noodling away on the piano. So on the simple parts he adds flourishes, and on the complex part he simplifies it. But very wonderful to listen to, and especially if you can get a hold of any of his concert stuff. You could tap into that common man who's also kind of beyond and crazy. Sort of like Michael Jackson was as well. It's like, is he down to earth or crazy or both? It's just, it's a certain appeal that he has. There's other stuff. I haven't listed, I'll list this, but these are like Charles E. Fuller, A Generation's Voice from God, narrated by Paul Harvey, some sort of religious guy. And this should be good. Maybe this must be online because it's so crazy. Adon Lani talks with teenagers. And on the back it says, a terrific personality delivers a terrific message. Teens like one to talk with them, not at them. And of course, you can imagine teens being talked to with this blue-suited old man holding a Bible there. Doesn't look too hip. But I'm going to have to watch this. There's even cartoons on there. I'm going to have to listen to this and see what it's like. Finally, some interesting stuff. We got the Divine Miss M classic album. So they did have this. Bette Midler is always worthwhile. And was it Dwayne Eddy that just passed recently? I love instrumentals from the 60s and 70s. Lots of fantastic stuff from Dwayne Eddy. This is also a person to get a greatest hits from if you're not familiar, listen to his stuff. And Herb Alpert as well. A little more kitschy sound, but I like it, especially his Christmas album. It's online. People kind of make fun of it because it's so over the top, but I like it. And so finally, I started out by saying don't read current stuff except for my book. So my book there, Still Unknown Place. This is my latest novel. It's a novel of disillusionment with the world, of people going out to the ends of the world to find themselves or to lose themselves. And there's a paperback that's coming out, and this is a proof copy. It's not quite right on one side, but it will come out in paperback soon. Still out in the hardback. It's also in Kindle. I'd love if you read it. It's probably my life's work. It's so big and epic. I'm trying to contrast the eternal with the simple and banal of our lives. But, our lives, even as simple or trite or banal as they are as complex as all of time, because our lives are all the time we have. So anyway, try to do a lot of things in this book. I'd love it if you'd read it and let me know what you think. So stay tuned. We'll have more updates on the headlines, and we'll be looking forward to the debates next week. So please like and subscribe. Bye-bye.